Hello, and welcome to the latest installment from the Young Watchery. In today's episode, I'm going to be taking a look at what is probably one of the most popular entry-level automatics ever made. And I'm referring to, of course, the notorious Seiko SNK809. Now this has been for a long time a favorite among entry-level mechanical watch enthusiasts, and I was originally intending to do a full review of this piece. However, I was looking around a bit on YouTube, and there are simply so many great reviews on this piece that I feel it would be redundant and unnecessary to do a complete review of this piece. I also want to point out that when I started this channel, my goal was really to be perhaps representing opinions that weren't quite as well represented in the YouTube watch community, and also maybe reviewing some pieces that also haven't been reviewed quite as much, such as the Omega that I reviewed a while back, as well as the Victorinox Officer Mechanical, Junkers GMT. And this, however, is a very popular piece. So instead of doing a complete review, I'm going to be giving you 5 reasons why I believe that this is a great piece, and more specifically, a great entry-level automatic. So without further ado, I'll roll the introduction, and then we'll jump right in. Stay tuned. Now the movement in this particular piece is the Seiko 7S26. And this is a bit of a hotly debated movement. A lot of people will defend the movement and say it's a great option. A lot of other people will complain about its lack of features, which we'll get into later. But we'll start with sort of the basic. The specific variant of the Seiko 7S26 movement that is within this particular piece is the 7S26C, which, as I understand, started showing up in about 2011. Before that, there was obviously the A and B variant. This is a 21 joule movement and has a bidirectional winding rotor. I'll actually just give you a quick glance here. It'll be a bit hard to see, but I'll show up a closer shot later. But like I mentioned, it does have that bidirectional winding, which is nice. It also has a 40-hour power reserve, so about what you'd expect. And it is also equipped with Seiko's Dia shock, and that is a good point to bring up. Seiko 5 and the movements utilized by the Seiko 5 range are known to be really durable. They're known to be, just extremely reliable movements, sorry. And I think that's a really strong thing that this watch brings forward to the affordable watch community. When you're buying your first mechanical watch, or you're buying just an affordable sort of beater mechanical watch, you don't really want to have to worry about it too much. And I think that's something that this watch does a great job of handling. Now this movement does run a bit on the slower side. We're looking at 6 beats, or 6 little ticks per second. And that is, it's, again, I'll include a little video here so you can see. It is a little bit choppy. It's definitely choppier than the 8 beats per second that we sort of come to expect in the standard ETA 2824-2. But then again, this is a tool watch, it's not designed to be super elegant, especially in the workings of the movement. So now that we've mentioned the basic specifications, I want to get into the controversies surrounding this movement, or better said, the reasons why some people really dislike this movement and verbally sort of attack it, if you will, on other YouTube channels and on forums and things like that. And the number one reason, or the first reason, is that this movement is not hand-windable. It is also not hacking, which means that you simply, if you set this watch down or something, if it's fully wound, it's going to go for 38 hours or somewhere near that, but you obviously can't wind it to top it off. It also means that when this piece is if you pick this piece up and it's not running and you want to set the time, or you're getting it going to wear, You're gonna have to just give it a little shake like this, and to be honest, these movements are extremely efficient. I mean, shake it maybe 3 times and it'll start running. It's absolutely incredible how efficient they are. But despite that, a lot of people are quite disappointed by the fact that it doesn't have those features. And I want to sort of play, not really the devil's advocate, but I want to represent the flip side to that. And that is that in the week, or actually several weeks now that I've owned this piece and had the pleasure of wearing it, I've really appreciated the minimalistic attitude of this movement, if you will. This is not a watch that's meant to be, flipping it out every other day with some other pieces. This is like, you strap this bad boy on your wrist, you go to Africa, you're on a freaking safari for a week, you don't have to worry about setting this piece down. It's on your wrist, it's getting wound up. This is a tool watch, it's meant to be worn. It's not meant to be sit down in some watch box. It doesn't need to be hand windable, is what I'm saying. At least for me personally, I think there's something endearing about the fact that it's not hand windable and not hackable. Sure, those are great features, and they're features that we've really come to expect as sort of the baseline, if you will, for a lot of automatic movements like the ETA 2824-2. But again, I think it's just this watch, that simplisticness of it, it's sort of like a truly minimalism. There's nothing extra. It does exactly what it was designed to, exactly what it needs to do, and not even a bit more. Initially, you may think it's kind of a pain, but I think after a while it kind of grows on you. And so I think, honestly, I actually enjoy the fact that it's not hand windable or hackable. Obviously, in the rest of my automatic mechanical watches, I do enjoy those features, but on this particular piece, I think it's quite cool, actually, and it hopefully will grow on you as it has grown on me. Now, there's one thing I want to also point out on that topic, and that is that hacking, if you're not familiar with what it means for a movement to be hackable, is that when you pull the crown out, the second hand will stop. That would be a hacking movement. On this particular piece, I don't know if you can see from out there, but if I pull the crown out, the second hand will continue to move. And the main reason that people don't like that is because it makes setting the watch not as accurate, if you will, because you're not going to have the second hand right at the 60. Now, I don't know if I'm just not understanding how this is working. If I'm wrong about this, please let me know down in the comments. But couldn't you just wait until the second hand, reaches the 60, have your minute hand pre-aligned, and then just press in the crown as soon as the second hand reaches the 60? I mean, that seems like, I don't understand why you couldn't just do that. It's not really a big issue at all. From what I understand about mechanical watches, I don't see why that wouldn't have the same effect as obviously just pulling out the crown once your second hand is at the 60 mark, as you could do with a hacking movement. But if I'm mistaken about this for some reason, please let me know, like I said. I also want to point out the accuracy of this particular movement. In the instructions that come with the particular watch, it says something like plus 30 to minus 15 seconds, or something, a really unhealthy frame, if you will, a little bit concerning. But I measured this watch, and I am absolutely stoked about how accurately mine is running. Because last time I checked this is not a joke, I mean, I have no reason to lie about this. 24 hours, this thing gained 3.4 seconds, which, that's pretty insane. My watch with the ETA 2824-2 gains about 5 seconds a day, and I have another piece that's COSC certified that isn't as accurate also. So that is that's just insane. Plus 3.4 seconds for a $60 automatic. Now, granted, at this price point, there are going to be some QC issues, and I have heard from other people that theirs ran a lot less accurately. So I kind of think it's probably a bit of a luck of a draw sort of thing. I do know, however, that you can get these regulated quite easily. I've also heard of people regulating the movement themselves. So you obviously are going to need some tools and knowledge on how to do that. But with this particular piece, plus 3.4 seconds, I am extremely pleased with that. Furthermore, I think it's important to point out the competition. I paid just under $60 for this one on Amazon. what are you going to get under $60 that even closely compares to this movement? I mean, you'll be hard-pressed to even find an automatic or any mechanical movement under $60. There's probably some, really terrible Chinese movements that you'll be able to find in that price point. But honestly, guys, for the price point, I mean, this thing can't be beat. I don't know anything under $60 that I would take over this, except like a G-Shock, but that's obviously not on the same playing field. Lastly, I just want to briefly mention that there is also a transparent caseback. And although I think that this is extremely unnecessary, especially on such a tooly watch as this, and especially where the movement is basically completely undecorated, I do think that transparent casebacks can help foster an appreciation and interest in mechanical pieces. I know that it definitely did that to me when I had my first mechanical piece with a transparent caseback. And for a lot of people, this might be their first mechanical watch. Obviously, the Seiko 5 is a very entry-level piece as far as the whole watch genre is concerned. And so I think it's actually, I think it's a nice feature, to be honest, even though it's completely unnecessary. So moving on to number 2, and that is the features that this watch provides at the price. And I'm only going to touch upon 2 of these features, and the first being the lume. The lume on this piece is really pretty decent. It's fairly bright. It lasts a decent amount of time, in my opinion. We have lume on the hour and minute hand, and also at each of the 12 indices, even the 3 o'clock here. And we also have lume applied to the counterbalance of the seconds hand. And, some people think that's a little bit odd to have it applied to the counterbalance, like it is also on the Seiko SNK809, I believe, because obviously it would make a little bit more sense to have that lume applied on the tip of the seconds hand or near the tip, so you know where your seconds are at. But from what I've heard, from what I've read on the forums and just heard from other people, is that is simply so that at night you know if the watch is running, if it's working properly, especially on the Seiko SNK809, because it would obviously be very unfortunate if your watch stopped working while you were diving and you didn't realize that. But yeah, it is a little bit, it is a little bit awkward, let's put it like that. But then again, it does the job. My one complaint with the lume is that I wish that at the 12 o'clock there were two little lume dots, if you will, so that it would be easier to distinguish the 12 o'clock position when you're reading the watch at night. But you can definitely still read the time. I just think it would have made it a little bit easier to see. And some people, have complained that the lume, let me say it like this, the lume isn't amazing. It does the job, and it's fairly bright, but it's not amazing. It's not, Seiko Monster, it's not obviously that bright. But again, I think we have to consider the competition. I don't know any watch, even under $100, that has lume that compares to this on the Seiko 5. So I think the lume is a really a great aspect of the watch, and it really does the job. And at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. Number 2, the second feature I want to mention is the day-date complication. Some people are not a fan of this day-date complication that we see pretty much across the board. Actually, I think that's on all Seiko 5s. It is one of the five features of the Seiko 5 line. But to be honest, on this piece, I actually like it. It's very discreet. It's obviously negative, so we've got the black wheels with the white lettering. Yeah, I mean, it's a useful feature, and it's actually my first mechanical day-date watch. And as a lot of other people have said, yeah, it does take like a pretty absurd amount of time, like 3 or 4 hours for the date wheel and the day wheel to kick over to the next day. But I mean, guys, for $60, like I've said throughout this video, it's unbeatable for the price. I think it's an absolute great value, and it does so many things. You just gotta accept its weaknesses, because at $60, at $100, there's nothing that really compares. I also want to point out that my date wheel is in English, or my day wheel, excuse me, is in English and Spanish. I think that some of them are probably in English and another language, but you might want to check that out if you want a different language in there or whatever. So moving on to number 3, and that is the flieger dial, combined though with field watch proportions. And I think that's really a great feature of this watch. I personally really like that flieger dial, or the flieger B-Uhr style dial, with the minutes, with minute markings on the outside, Arabics for the minute markings, I should say. And then you've got a circle ring, and then you've got your hour Arabics, and also the classic triangle there at the 12 o'clock. Again, I'll put up a better picture so you can see what I'm referring to. But what I really like is the fact that they've taken a really cool, iconic dial, and they've put it into a watch that, from the case, much more resembles a field watch. And I think that's cool, because you are getting sort of that flieger feel without a 50mm case size, which a lot of people, it would just look absolutely ridiculous on. Obviously, in World War II, it was a completely different story. Today, though, I think it's cool to be able to have some of that sort of flieger character, just without the monstrous sizes. Some people might think it's odd that a Japanese watch manufacturer is using what is traditionally a very German style dial, but I don't see an issue with it, to be perfectly honest. Number 4 is comfort. And this is really important, and I think largely overlooked by the watch community in general. I think that comfort is something that we've sort of forgotten as something that a watch should be. I think personally a watch should be comfortable. In this sort of day and age of 44mm steel divers on bracelets and things, comfort has just kind of been overlooked, in my opinion. And for me personally, especially with sort of smaller wrists, I find that a watch that's more comfortable, you can really start to enjoy the piece a little bit more. You're not like, at the end of the day, your wrist isn't all like, your wrist isn't just screaming to take the watch off or whatever. It feels comfortable. It feels like it's where it belongs on your wrist, right? And a lot of that has to do with the size. This is a 37mm case. And for a lot of people, they're going to be kind of like, they're going to think that's too small for them. And I would urge you, if you're one of those people who is sort of thinking that this watch might be too small for them, I would urge you to reconsider. Small watches are definitely making a little bit of a comeback in the watch industry. And it is just such a beautiful, classic size that can look great on really a large variety of wrists. Even larger wrists. Of course, if you have a really large wrist, might not be your piece, but I think in general, I love the case size because it's so comfortable, and it's just so much more refined than something way larger. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, traditional fliegers were way larger, and in that sense, some people might consider that the design is incongruent with what it should be, but this piece is still very legible, and like I said, this piece isn't trying to be a flieger, it's trying to be a field watch, and Seiko was like, let's just put a flieger dial in this, and it looks extremely cool. The other thing that makes this piece really comfortable is the crown. Now we've obviously have this recessed crown here, that's also very small at the 4 o'clock position, so not your standard 3 o'clock. And the crown can be a little bit hard to operate. I have heard complaints about the process of actually getting it out with your fingernail. Personally, I don't have any issues getting it out, but it is a little bit cumbersome when you're trying to set the time. But keep in mind the following. You're not going to be winding this piece. So it's like a trade-off. The piece becomes a lot more comfortable. You don't have that crown rubbing into you at all. But in turn, when you set the time, yeah, it's going to be a little bit cumbersome. Moving on to our last point, number 5, and that is versatility. This piece is extremely versatile. And I think there's really 2 reasons that it's so versatile. The first being its slenderness. This piece comes in at just about 10mm, and it's obviously a sports watch, But I think because of just the smaller proportions, you could definitely wear this watch in a bit of dressier situations if you had to. You know, it's just it's a very versatile piece. You can wear it with jeans and a t-shirt. You can wear it extremely casually. On the other hand, if you put it on a leather strap, you could also wear it, like I said, in a bit more of a dressy situation. I do think that its versatility is slightly hindered by the fact that the finish on the case is sort of, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is a bead blasted finish. It's definitely not a brushed finish. It's more like a gray. It's like coated. I believe that's a bead blasted finish, but again, I'm not 100% sure. Please, if you know, please inform me. I don't want to be quoting something incorrectly. But my point is simply that I think that if they would have made this a brushed case, maybe even a polished case, or maybe a brushed case with a polished bezel, that would have, that would have made it extremely, extremely versatile. And that would be really cool to see. But obviously, if you're going to have those two levels of finishing, it's really going to drive up the price. And you know, a lot of this watch's charm comes from the fact that it's so affordable, so I don't really know actually at the end of the day if that would be worth it. The second reason for why I think this piece is so versatile is because it looks great on such a large variety of straps. Right now you can see that I've put this piece on just a very basic black one-piece strap. I did though have to go to some significant trouble to find a 18mm buckle that matched the finish of this case. For me personally, having a buckle that didn't match the finish of the case is kind of a no-no. I mean, it would bug me, let's put it like that. I think you could probably pull off a PVD buckle. I think that would look better than a polished or a brushed buckle. But for most people, it's probably not going to be that big of an issue, but I'm kind of when it comes to my straps, I'm just really particular about that. But at the end of the day, I mean, you could wear this watch on anything, let's be real. It would look great on just about anything. So now that I've covered the 5 points, I hope you've learned something, I hope you've enjoyed the video. And if you have, I would greatly appreciate getting a like and subscription. I'd also like to point out there for my subscribers that content, again, has been extremely sparse through the last couple months, but now that my high school junior year is over and I'm on summer, I obviously have a lot more time on my hands, so I'm going to be producing a lot more videos. So, as always, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned.